Is that going to work? Yeah, looks like it is. And there we go. Okay. Yeah, looks like we're good. So howdy everybody on Rumble and howdy everybody on YouTube today. Good to see you if you're not actually visible, but I still see you. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So, like I said, this isn't going to be a typical stream. Obviously, this is just to address what's obviously been going on. There's been a long time since the last stream, and basically coincides with everything that's been going on lately. So I didn't want to leave you guys in the dark about this, and because of my past patterns of missing a lot of streams for fairly significant periods of time, I didn't like the fact that this was happening, and I wasn't going to be able to at least clear up what's been going on, because this is not like what's happened before. This is actually relatively pretty serious, and that's unusual for me because I don't have a lot of things like this come up. I've very rarely had any kind of serious health condition or physical condition that's put me out of commission for a long period of time, other than very isolated incidents. I think probably the longest was when I had several teeth extracted, and my mouth was swollen and bloody for about a week or so. That wasn't fun. But this isn't exactly that, although this is, well, it's definitely something that is more serious long term and even short term, honestly. This is, and I just want to make sure I get this off my chest and make sure I make this clear right from the get-go, because I don't want this to be any kind of pity party. I don't want to make this into being about, poor me. No, I'm just going over this stuff because, like I said, it's gonna be obviously affecting things for a while, and I don't want to be having to, make an announcement every time about something that's going on, and when I could just clear it up right now. And also because I've been thinking about this, and it's true that, I've said many times, and I'll continue to say that I have no plans of ending the show. Sometimes I wonder, though, would I end the show because I physically was unable to, in some way, without even being able to communicate that I was no longer able to do the show? I think I'd push myself so far that would definitely be a possibility. But at the same time, if I can at least let everybody know what's going on, then it wouldn't be a surprise if something came up and there was a long disappearance that was followed by no notice of what's going on. You at least know ahead of time. And the dogs are going crazy because someone came home. Anyway, so like I said, in the past, I know I've had a lot of things that have come up, and it's usually been around certain issues of tech issues. There's been technical difficulties. There's been difficulties with either audio or video equipment, or internet-related issues, or, who knows. There's been a bunch of reasons why. Sometimes it's something as simple as my unusual sleeping habits have kept me up, or I've ended up staying up too long, and I ended up just passing out not long before I was going to actually start streaming. So, but this time it's something very different, and actually very serious, because I was I think I think I already talked about this on stream, so I'll just bring it up again. But sweet. I mentioned. Well, I've talked about having certain different diagnosed mental illness before, and my family's sort of history with mental illness. Um, and it's not usually something that really is a serious hindrance to anything, but it does lead to situations that can be kind of overwhelming. And one of the biggest ones for a while has always been this sort of, the closest thing I can say is like something like ADD, where it's like inability to decide on anything. So in the case of the stream, it would be like, what am I going to talk about today? And I'll go back and forth between all this stuff and not ever land on any decision of exactly what I want to do. And that, like I said, that gets to be a problem, but it's never like a, that's a case by case sort of situation that comes about, on different days for different reasons. If there's some kind of conflicting amount of stories that I can't cover all at once, but I've never had like one serious thing, and I've discussed. I'm sure I mentioned it at least. I had an appointment with my primary care doctor, who was concerned with my sort of. I've laughed about it, and it's funny. I've fallen asleep on stream before. I know, I don't care. It's it's something that is kind of funny in that context. Although, unfortunately, now not quite as much. Although I still laugh at it, but still, um, the reason that was a topic of discussion though was because it is unusual to be so, like, I've never been one to just pass out in the middle of something. I used to not be able to even sleep at all unless I was in a bed, like with a pillow and with sheets and like everything. I used to not be able to sleep at all. I used to not be able to nap at all during, if it was during the day. I used to not be able to even sleep. So I've always had these weird sort of problems getting to sleep. Now I have problems not just passing out in the middle of anything. Um, I will say that driving is one of those things that, like, even if I get tired while I'm driving, I have this sort of laser focus when I'm driving that kind of is made it so I never have even come close to falling asleep there. Although I wouldn't want to press my luck on that, but just kind of saying that that's something that's never been really an issue. But when I brought this up to the whole situation up to my primary care doctor, he wanted to have blood work done, and he wanted to have an MRI done. I'd never had an MRI done, so that was an interesting experience. But I was really curious what was going to come up from all the tests that were run, and blood work came back with no issues whatsoever. But the MRI surprisingly came back with something that really it explained a lot, but it was still nonetheless pretty damn shocking because of what actually was going on. And it does essentially lead, basically, you could argue all roads lead back to this because it makes a lot of sense after the last few years with the sudden, very serious ramp up of severity in terms of the sort of symptoms that I've been having, and even a prior doctor was completely unable to diagnose what exactly was going on. But in this case, after the MRI, they were able to point out something, and this kind of freaked me out at first, but I'm now just kind of curious more than anything why. I kind of have a feeling I know why, but anyway, what was described to me as the results from the MRI was essentially when they looked back at the scans, there was all these highlighted areas along the surface area that sort of indicate the way it was described to me, and this is the way it's been described when I've read articles about this. What's the geez. always forget about it. I always forget the name. Um, hmm. Why can't I think of the name of this? There's it's not a no. Man, why can't I think of the word? It's an obvious word. I keep forgetting the name of it. It's something that everybody knows exactly what it is. I just jeez, this is embarrassing. Um, why can't I think of? I'm having a total brain fart here, and this is the important part. No, not. Why am I completely blanking on it? Man. Okay, this is driving me nuts. I have to at least. I think I can figure it out if I do a quick search real quick. I don't know why this. I'm having this horrible brain fart right now. This is driving me nuts. Weird way to look this up. No, not. Stroke. Gosh, I can't believe I couldn't think of the word. There was. It was described as the result of multiple miniature strokes that I have had over the course of several the last few years. That was what it was. I know that sounds like really severe. I know obviously it is, but for me it kind of made sense because I've talked about my sort of panic disorder and my anxiety disorder. My family has a lot of issues with depression, anxiety, and bipolar. I'm the only one that was diagnosed with panic. But in the last couple of years, especially, probably going back about 3 years now, the these the severity and frequency of panic attacks and serious like nervous breakdowns have gone up significantly, like really significantly, in a way that I have been having a very hard time kind of dealing with, because it really does like kind of destroy the rest of anything else you got going on here. So, and what's been happening during the course of these episodes is like a sort of sense that, like, I mean, there's times where I don't even remember where I am. I have no sense of what's going on around me. I have no sense of anything that's happening. I'm completely unaware of my surroundings, and I'm just kind of feeling like it's just adding to the snowballing panic that just goes out of control. So ultimately, what ends up being the result is just this case where I run myself ragged to the point where I'm exhausted, and that usually just leads me to pass out and fall asleep. And it's usually a very long sleep afterward, really long sleep that, I mean, 10 hours, sometimes 12 hours, sometimes even more than that. Rarely, but sometimes more than that. So, based on those results, they're sending me to a neurologist to go over all the specifics about what's causing this and what the best way to treat the whole condition will be. I'm not sure, nor was my primary care doctor, exactly what it is that is happening that is the ultimate issue at the root of all this. But ultimately, the number one thing I need to make sure that I watch out for is making sure that I don't put myself in situations where I'm obviously going to be feeling enormous pressure, and so there's a lot of things that I end up doing that always conclude with me kind of ending with kind of saying, yeah, that was pointless. All I did was just go crazy the whole time for no reason. And they can be simple everyday tasks, but for some reason something will go wrong, and it'll just spiral out of control. So um, the uh, the idea of me having these strokes, miniature strokes, essentially, um, has been kind of, like I said, it was at least an answer to everything that's been going on that's been wrong. But I wanted to let you guys know this more than anything because, uh, I wasn't, like I said, it's not about. I really, I'm not doing this to like get any sympathy or any pity or anything. I just want to let you guys know, like, I always feel so dumb when I do a stream, and I'm trying to mention that I'm going to try to do another one soon. I don't know when I'll be able to do it, and I've never really been able to articulate exactly why it is that something may come up and I won't be able to do it. It seems kind of weird, like, why wouldn't you be able to? Well, something that ends up coming up out of nowhere that really throws me off and causes me to kind of divert my attention in a different direction, and then I start kind of splitting my attention in too many directions, and it just leads to bad places very quickly. So the main thing is just that I know that anyone who's watched the show for a significant amount of time at this point, they would know that obviously I'm not someone who is going to try and just bullshit all you guys. I want you guys to be able to enjoy the show, and that's my primary goal with every show. But it just seems like when I don't get to follow up and especially finish a lot of the things that I say I'm going to do and I'm starting them, it's not fair to you guys, and it's just another thing for me to kind of dwell on that makes me feel like, God damn, you failed at that now too. So, like I said, it's really just to let you guys know the reasons why that there's been such a sporadic streaming schedule lately. It sucks. It really sucks. I remember when I first started the show, and it was pretty steady for the first couple of months. There was a stream every day, just like I was planning. For the 6 days a week, I would do the show, and then after about 2 months, for some reason, there was a drop off, and then it kept dropping off more and more. But yeah, the end result is just being in a spot where um, I don't know for sure where I end up going from here. But I will tell you one thing: I'm still not throwing in the towel yet. I'm still, as the title implies, this is not me saying I'm done. And I'm hoping that at the end of this sort of whole process, that it leads to maybe some consistency and maybe some more ability to keep myself focused and not have my attention kind of split among a million different things and completely lose control. But that is still a ways off, obviously. So with that being said, I can't say anything for sure about where I'll be going for the next couple months. I will say that it's my intention, especially now, to get back on doing streams again, because it is one thing I can say that like anytime you see me like pass out on stream, it's usually because of the process beforehand and not anything that's going on during the stream. Like the setup was rough, or getting the videos all together was rough, or something. Something about the setup process was particularly difficult. Um, Doing the show is cathartic, to be honest. So it's not that, but that's another issue with the way this whole thing kind of plays out. Is that when I'm at peak, um, sort of anxiousness, when I'm actually there, um, it's not too much of a push to knock me off into kind of, cuckoo land, basically. But I feel like if I can just remember that, like, hey, try not to second guess the things that you have in mind unless there's serious reason to. Like, if something obviously factually changes, then you're gonna have to change it up. But you don't have to second guess some kind of story you're gonna comment on just because something else came up that everybody else is gonna be really what's it called? Oh, well, there you go. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna be trying to kind of remember the idea that, and I've had a number of incidents where people have tried to remind me, hey, don't forget, don't lose your cool, keep yourself calm, keep yourself relaxed, because the last thing I need is any more trauma. But and I use that word, I hate to use that word because, man, the culture has been so destroyed that a lot of words that are really significant and meaningful are no longer meaning much of anything, unfortunately. But, damn. Well, yeah, like I said, it's, well, I'm sorry, I'm kind of drifting off. I'm trying to think of what was the more important aspect of all this, but and I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember all the points I was going to cover. That's right. So, I will say that I'm going to try to get back into a schedule where I'm going to be once again, there 6 days a week or 5 days a week even, maybe aim one less day a week. If it was something that made the process seem a little bit less daunting, it might actually kind of help a little bit. That's just a guess, but it's a pretty well-informed guess, I'd say. And then the other thing is, if I can try to do it back in a time where it's earlier again, because the late night shows really are kicking my ass because you have all day, and I get, I get to a point where it's like, well, there's still time left. I can still do. No, there's not time left, and so the earlier the better. And I think that was another reason why streams worked so much better earlier on, was because they were, like about my time around 12 noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And that'd be Eastern time. That would be anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5. But unfortunately, because number one, I don't really know any like anywhere around here anyway, that it's like people that are into fighting games, in particular, like really niche fighting games. But I do want to make sure that, and here's the last part that's kind of really critical. I don't know if it'll really do much good, but I do want to try to reincorporate YouTube again. That's why I'm doing another video for YouTube after it's been way longer since the last video on Rumble than it was for the last video on YouTube, because the audience numbers have just been completely stacked in Rumble, in the Rumble category, and very little, except for on a handful of occasions, YouTube was able to even come close. But there was still the issue of dual streaming. However, there's two things that are going to be kind of making that much less of a burden. The first one is that just flat out we got a much better internet connection at this point than we had not too long ago. And it's not an issue in terms of the connection anymore at all to do a simultaneous stream on YouTube and on Rumble. So that leads to the second thing, which is just the quality of the video itself, and if I'll be able to stream it with smooth and not jittery or not all disconfigured and distorted video quality that'll come in choppy and all messed up. So I've been kind of looking into this for a while, and finally I think I'm going to be able to do it. There's some devices that are much better for running, especially if you use multiple cameras like I do, for encoding the video signal before you send it, and then it can be transferred through online connection, and then decoded by their servers, which ultimately takes a lot less time on both ends for the most part, for most miniatures that came in that look pretty interesting. Anyone that's got that weird sort of well, anyone who's got that weird sort of vibe about where you're going to go to watch something, like, it doesn't bother me at all. I still watch stuff on YouTube if it's there, and I still watch a lot of stuff on Rumble, but I know what I expect to find on both platforms. I didn't expect because of my past experience on YouTube, even though it's never been political or anything controversial, it's just been gaming, I didn't think that there would be experience quite as memorable as that for a weird well, it's a weird time, and it's a weird way to handle it, but I think that with all the ways I've been able to improve the quality lately, including all the ways I've been able to add the plugins to the audio, I've been able to really mix the audio to sound, from what it sounds like to me when I've been sampling the audio and listening back to it, sounding amazingly good, just like so much better than I would have expected. So basically what I'm thinking about doing for the most part is, if at least for the early episodes back on YouTube, what I think I'm going to do is, because I know the YouTube audience usually won't stick around for longer content unless you're a well-known creator. And by the way, we're going to have a discussion soon with just me and you guys, because oh boy, the amount of people running around talking about influencers now is getting so, oh, I want to bang my head on the wall. I'm so tired of hearing that stupid term. But the point is that there's been some big names getting involved into events that have nothing to do with them. But yeah, that's a freaking fun aspect of trying to get that working that way. But anyway, so what I think I'm going to do is usually it just happens to kind of play out this way. I have two main stories that I want to talk about, and sometimes I kind of shoot off into a sort of sub part, a sub story that's related to one of those two main ones. But generally, the show usually revolves around two bigger stories that I focus most of the time on. So what I think I'm going to do is, at least for a little while, try to gauge the situation and maybe figure out if it is going to be worth the extra time to set everything up and actually attempt to really get the channel to get some traction back again. I'm going to upload the first part of the show, and then I'll probably go for a mid-show break for a few minutes, like I do on occasion. But I'll cut the YouTube show after that first break, and then the Rumble show can continue on to the second story. And if anybody's interested in continuing to follow up with the next discussion we end up having, then they can just pop on over to Rumble and they can watch it. And if I see some kind of correlation there between people who really just want to watch it and will follow the, because I have no reason to believe right now, without any kind of real significant amount of following, that there's going to be any way for me to really there's going to be no real way for me to gauge how well they're doing, other than looking at that metric and seeing how many people are actually interested in the long form discussion for everything. And looking at my library of live streams, almost every video that is a full show that actually goes as intended, it's usually about 2.5 hours, and more often than not, it ends up bleeding closer to 3 than just 2.5. Definitely not anywhere close to just 2. So I do need to work on kind of narrowing that down. I do tend to ramble, obviously, as I've done today as well. But I do think that the two-story format is really a good way to handle the whole presentation. And I think doing it that way with the audience to kind of focus in on what each one would be more willing to be directly invested in and focused on. I think that would be the best way to kind of get a good idea of if my theory is correct about just the time that people are going to be interested on YouTube and watching sort of a long discussion of events. And then Rumble, usually that's far more expected on the Rumble end of things, so kind of vice versa for them in that situation. And ultimately just see where that goes. But for the time being, I'm going to probably have a little bit of a difficulty with doing those. I don't know if I'll be doing it right out of the gate when I do my next episode, whenever that may be. I hope I can do it on the next stream that I do, but it'll have to obviously depend on what I can end up pulling off and if there's any issues or anything else. But that is the plan for what I will be setting into motion as soon as I'm back on. And I do have an appointment, like I said, set up with a neurologist, and so I'll maybe have some more answers about what actually is going on and what I'm going to need to do. But in the meantime, I'll be focused on doing the show, um, and maybe we'll get into maybe discussing ways to meet up for gaming or something related if uh, we end up getting some cookie dough batter. Anyway, I don't know why that. Well, I do, but that sounds good right now. Go figure. Um, anyway, so lastly, like I said, I am planning on making sure that this show continues because I really am. There's a lot of not just time and effort invested in it, but this is really one of those things where um, I'm feeling like I am kind of when you remove all of the negative effects that come about that are a hindrance or depressing to see, the actual act itself of doing the show is something that is uh, I genuinely really enjoy and I have a really great time with whenever I make it to that point. But actually, actually doing the whole plan laid out for everybody that is here and saying it so that everyone knows what to expect. Um, Hopefully, if there's any feedback for anybody out there, I always welcome it. I get a little bit once in a while, but never any kind of major suggestions, other than from bots that want me to buy something from them. Um, but aside from that, I never really get much in the way of feedback from people, and I always do ask if there's anything you guys want to see or anything you would like to see me do. Let me know. But ultimately, this definitely was a hmm. But yeah, sorry, I'm trying to think exactly how this goes. But anyway, just to wrap up, that's that's what's been going on. That's why I've been out of action for as long as I have. Um, I hope you guys can bear with me on this one. I really have. I mean, there's been so much I've wanted to say lately, and there's been so many big things that have come by. I've got mountains of clips that I'm sitting on that I'm probably not going to be able to use because by the time I get around to it, it's going to be old and not important and just not worth covering. Um, but at the same time, when I have been able to do it, it's been one of the few really rewarding things I have to do that I can look at, and when I have a good day, it's like, oh yes, keep them rolling. But no matter how much try to force myself to remember something or do something that would be what's the word, beneficial, I guess. um, I've been willing to do whatever I can to make that kind of a theme, I guess. Um, but yeah, yeah. There's not really much I can do outside of just keep trying. So I'm gonna keep doing that, and hopefully, once there's some more answers about what exactly to do, that'll be something I can focus on, and I'll definitely share with you guys any kind of information that does come up that I can share because a lot of people can, uh, when you put stuff out there, occasionally there's a lot of people that do have some pretty good suggestions that can help you kind of come up with ideas you may not have had before or whatever. And so I'm always, I'm always open ears for that kind of thing. But even so, if you have something that's just a suggestion for the show, I always like to hear it as well. But either way, I still greatly appreciate anybody that's even given the show a chance. I really, really appreciate the time and the attention that you were willing to give because it's a saturated market. But yeah, I think that I think that a lot of things that I kind of come to conclusions uh, about when I see everything that's happening around us these days. Um, there are things that I don't hear much media talking about, and I don't see Ukraine, whatever. Sorry. But anyway, yeah, I will be. I'll be on as soon as I can be on, and there's a bunch of stuff I'll be. I'm prepared to do. I have a few updated updated assets and animations and some new soundboard clips and a few other good and fun little bells and whistles that are just things that I added in to have a little bit of fun. But ultimately, I really, really want to keep this going as long as I can. And so, thank you for all your support, and thank you, as always, for watching. I will let you guys know as soon as there's any developments that come about as to anything concerning the condition that I'm going to be diagnosed with, whatever it might be, and I'll keep you guys in the loop for what to expect after that. But in the meantime, that's what has kept me away from the stream as of late. So thank you for listening, and I hope to see you guys on the next one for when we have hopefully some better days, and we'll be back in the swing of things and feeling a little bit more normal. So until then, thanks again for watching. I will be here as soon as I can. Frame Advantage Live, Corey Dean. Thank you very much. See you guys on the next one. Peace out.